Welcome, acolytes. Today, the first thing I want to say is Squampopulous. It's fine, fair enough. Thank you for your positive feedback. Feedback for my shop content, because let's be real, it's reaction, so it's shop. But I find it extremely fascinating that the content creators that I actually react to, most of them, 99% of them, actually react positive to the reactions I give, but some of the fans in this fandom actually don't like it. I don't know why. You get a lot of hate, or I get a lot of hate for this, so maybe this is a video idea for you, because I think you can maybe benefit from that, as I benefit from the reactions. And I hope you actually enjoy how I react, and you still think that it's a positive gain for your channel, because what you're doing here is actually quite fantastic. I don't know how the fuck the algorithm actually picked you up and just shown your really good content and just put it up there, but I am happy about it. But so, let's just start, acolytes. Let's see what he has to say again, and let's go.
Strong winner, weak loser. Fly swatting.
Oh, this is a bit... give me a second, the sounds are a bit low. Well, fair enough. I don't think I can do it way better, but I think it's fine. Let's just continue.
If we know the strong character is going to win, how do we keep a fight interesting? This is a follow-up to my first video.
Oh, I would say my thinking that if you have a strong winner and like in your last video, it's the event thing. Make it look so freaking epic that it just looks as if, well, everybody, that the character is just a badass, but don't overdo it. It's simple as that.
Which I'm grateful to say really,
as you actually said in the last video,
blew up. Yeah. If you haven't yet watched it, I recommend checking it out to get a broad understanding of what I'm calling the fight spectrum. However, I'm going to try to make this video understandable even if you have not yet watched the first one. While I was making that video, I knew that I wanted to make a 4-part series where I went more in depth on each of the 4 categories.
And I think I'm gonna also link the first video, just so you instantly get the context if you didn't see that one.
Today we're going to break down fly swatting. I think fly swatting is probably the most common type of fight scene. Writers love having strong characters, and what better way to show off a character's strength than by having them make light work of weaker characters. Unfortunately, I see some common issues in these types of fight scenes that make them feel unbelievable, unnatural, and sometimes just plain boring.
As you say that, I personally think that the scene you just shown with Darth Vader was freaking awesome. I love this fly swatting here, because it just shown that Darth Vader is a fucking tank and they fear him. And also it wasn't too long. It was a relatively short thing to just show what a freaking monster Darth Vader is. And it was just beautiful. But it also could be that, well, as you might maybe assume, I like liches, undead, bad guys. So maybe I'm just a bit... Maybe just a snitch off behind him. I also love Darth Vader, so...
Today I'll analyze good fly swatting fights so we can hopefully learn how to do them right. I'm going to include spoiler levels out of 10 for each fight, so you don't have to worry about getting spoiled.
See, the finals thing I didn't see. I didn't watch the Avengers movies because, well, I don't like them. The first ones, yes, but right now it's just
like boring. I just said, writers will show off a character's strength by making stark contrast to other characters. This is pretty much power scaling. In my first video, I mentioned that power scaling is stupid, but I think I left some explanation on the table. There's nothing inherently wrong with scaling characters' hypothetical power levels against each other. In fact, it didn't get past me that the fight spectrum that I made up literally does just that.
I actually wanted to mention this right now, but hey, if you see, you see.
My gripe with power scaling is when it's treated as an absolute answer to a matchup. In reality, no matchup is absolute. Have you ever heard of the term any given Sunday? It comes from the NFL and
Oh, I think I know what he has to say. By the way, I don't watch football, but the principle is that every team can win against every team in the world. It doesn't matter if it's soccer, football, if it's a team of total noobs in a game, let's just say League of Legends, that's irrelevant. there is a possibility that the weaker team or the team or that both teams have the chance to win. But which one wins? Well, most of the time it's the stronger team, of course. But there is a small chance that maybe
means that any team can beat any other team,
Yep.
regardless of what their records are on any given Sunday. As a Patriots fan,
Yep.
this is painfully accurate.
I don't know the
Anyway,
Patriots.
This should hold true with all fight scenes. No matchup should be determined before it starts, even if the chances are just 1 in a million. With that being said, when a character has only a 1 in a million chance to lose, it can quickly become a predictable snooze fest.
That's true, but that's why you make it epic. Don't show or don't focus on the character that's actually, or no, that's not even true, because at the end, as we actually just started, we focused on Darth Vader. He fly swatted those fuckers like nothing, and then you have someone like Thanos, and I don't know, like sometimes there is a good scene where you just see the character you wanna see, and if he fly swats, it's genius. Or if it's most of the time good guys that actually struggle, let's just say like Son Goku. You actually focus on Son Goku, how he struggles, not on Freezer, how he actually totally freaking rips him apart.
That's why I have special requirements for each type of fight. So for everyone who watched my first video, we know that my requirement for a fly swatting fight is characterization. What does that even mean, characterization? Well, my definition is honestly pretty loose. We obviously know that the strong character is going to win, but we don't want the fight to seem pointless.
Yep.
It just means that
Correct,
if fights
yep.
have a place in the story, we need to learn something new about the strong character that we didn't know before. That's what I'm calling characterization. This can range from something as simple as a new move, all the way to something complex like a character's tragic backstory.
I mean, is it necessary? I would say at some point, yes. But if it's pointless, I mean, the point isn't always that the strong character gets something new. Maybe the victim or the character of lower strength, the weaker character, could also just reveal something or just be, well, I mean, maybe show that the weaker character just tricked the big bad guy and just said, nah, you ain't going nowhere, brother.
As long as it's something fresh to the audience, it usually is enough to get my stamp of approval.
Saitama.
Why do I require this? As the name suggests,
I mean, as you can see, you just said that we reveal something new about the character. You actually never get anything to know about Saitama. You pretty much know, at least in the first season, what Saitama is about all the time. You don't learn anything new about him, but you already know or just learn to know how the weaker character act, what he is about.
these fights are like swatting flies. If a fly enters a strong character's path, they need to swat it. Okay, cool. But what if another fly comes along, and then another, and another? Sometimes there are a lot of dang flies. That's just how some stories will pan out.
Yep.
What's make or break is how the story handles the swatting. After about 4 swats or so, I start to get bored. That's why I want to see something fresh, some characterization.
Just
If we've
make it
seen them
epic.
swat 1 fly at a time, start getting 2 or 3 in one blow. If we've seen them handle 10 flies at a time, then I want to see an even stronger move. How many flies can you swat at once?
Yeah, I mean, just to be honest, I think this scene was beautiful. It wasn't too long. He swatted an unknown amount of freaking rhinos here. And yeah, it was still cool, but it wasn't too long. We know that he is a freaking beast.
How quickly can we exterminate the infestation? That gives us insight into their strength. Better yet, give me insight into their psyche. How does their strength impact their personality? How does it feel to swat flies over and over? What kind of monster is capable of this? For any given fly swatting scene, ask what makes this fight worth showing. If it's not bringing anything new to the story, maybe it's not worth the screen time.
Yeah, yep.
If you haven't heard, Satoru Gojo is strong. The type of strong that
I didn't see this, by the way.
the entire JJK universe. The type of strong that a lazy writer likes to say their character is, without really giving explanation as to how or why. Where I think JJK excels is showing exactly how Gojo's strength impacts him, as well as how it works, and they use fight scenes to do so. The fight kicks off and Jogo is wasting no time, which in general is great to see in a fight. I said in the first video that fights are best when they're punctual. I also said I hate when strong characters are playing with their food. Yet, Gojo seems to be doing just that. Throughout the fight, he's taunting Jogo, holding his hand, taking his sweet time, playing with his food. But I think it works perfectly in this case, because it characterizes Gojo. His carefree, joking personality is a big reason fans love him, but it also makes sense for his character to be that way.
Yeah, I think there are 2 points that are actually made here. First of all, it makes sense that he is how he is, and the second one is it's fun. And I think when it's fun, the other things just don't matter.
A big theme in JJK,
or at least if it makes sense plus fun,
is the loneliness that comes with strength, and I think a way Gojo combats this feeling of isolation is by being a fun, humorous guy, even during battle. Beyond Gojo's personality, I also said this fight helps the audience understand his powers. Here, he explicitly breaks down his technique to Jogo. There's a bit of a debate regarding showing versus telling exposition, and I definitely agree that in general, showing information makes for a better viewing experience. However, there is merit to having characters actually explain things. I think as long as it's reasonable for the character to actually explain something in a certain circumstance, rather than forcing it for the audience's sake, then I'm okay with verbal exposition. And Gojo is a talkative guy. So now we know how Gojo is effectively immortal, but the fight isn't done bringing fresh concepts to the audience. Jogo uses a domain expansion, which we haven't seen before. It's a staple in JJK combat, only reserved for the strongest of characters. Gojo, who I forgot to mention grabbed Yuji mid-fight to serve as a teaching moment, casually counters with his own domain.
What the fuck? I really have to look this shit up. This sounds freaking insane and fun.
And swiftly decapitates Jogo now that there's no fun left to be had. So, in recap, what did this fight tell the audience that we didn't know prior? Gojo is effectively immortal. You can't touch him unless he deliberately turns off his technique. He can also share this infinity with other people. He can even shoot these red bombs called reversal. Gojo is a clown. Nothing is a threat to him, so basically everything's a joke to him. Domain expansions are the pinnacle of sorcery. Only the strongest characters can use them. They enable all attacks to hit, and 2 domains fight like a tug of war, and the stronger one prevails. In my first video, I really wanted to include Kung Fu Panda, but I was unsure what...
I understand, brother. Kung Fu Panda is a freaking great film. I love it.
...scene worked best. I've since realized it is without a doubt the bridge scene, Tai Lung versus the Furious Five. Before the fight fully kicks off, we get a bit of characterization through an exchange of dialogue. Tigris is stanced up and ready to fight, but Tai Lung is casually inquiring about the Dragon Warrior. He knows that these 5 are not a threat to him, and he's egotistically acting like it. As we
and it's just fun watching him. It's
go
just
on to learn, ego and self-acceptance make up the biggest theme of the movie. Once the fighting starts, Tigris honestly does a fair job of holding her own against him, but it's not long until he has her debilitated, and Viper needs to sub in to save Tigris' life. Viper lasts about 5 seconds until Monkey needs to come to the rescue. Now we see all 5 members of the Furious Five working in a beautifully synchronized attack, perfectly using each other's strengths and their environment to their advantage.
Yeah, it was, and it was just so nice to look
Mantis
at.
jolts
Epic.
the entire bridge by himself, then Monkey uses his speed to be the first one there to strike Tai Lung before he's set. He then assists Viper, who uses her agility to strike Tai Lung again, and then Crane uses his flight to wrap him up with the bridge and assist Tigris with the final blow. The Furious Five just showcased a near-perfect David vs. Goliath fight, but this is a fly swatting video. And unfortunately for the Furious Five, they are the flies. Tai Lung uses his momentum to launch to the land behind them, and is finally on an even fighting ground. After one last egotistical jab of dialogue, he reveals the ace up his sleeve. His nerve attack makes swift work of the Furious Five, and reminds the audience just how strong he is. So, in recap, this fight lets the audience know that Tai Lung is an egomaniac, and has a seemingly uncounterable ability that puts him as arguably the strongest character in the show. The thing about fly swatting is that it only occurs when the power dynamics of a fight are heavily tilted toward one side. In stories with a lot of magic and fantasy, fly swatting is pretty common because strong characters are pretty common.
I do do not understand why this fucking picture is so legendary. What the fuck? It's so... Maybe just because the character is just so freaking... no... So freaking epic, and this just shows everything that's wrong.
In Game of Thrones, by far the most common category of fights is actually the toss-up. The writers favor the realistic approach, which often makes for pretty close fights between a few knights, settled with superior strategy. I plan on revisiting Game of Thrones a lot in future videos. However, Game of Thrones is still a fantasy show, and there are massively powerful characters. That power takes the form of dragons. When I covered Gojo, I mentioned that he was so powerful that he recontextualized the JJK universe. This is the level of power that dragons have in Game of Thrones. Daenerys having possession of dragons was like the most significant...
I mean, I never seen Game of Thrones, so because everybody said that it's a good show, so I instinctively said, nope, this can't be.
Significant plot point in the earlier seasons. They were so powerful that their very existence set the story in motion. Bit by bit, we watch the dragons grow up. We see them as juveniles hunt goats, burn children, and we're kind of realizing their dark potential. But what about in battle? Are they really that powerful? After waiting for 6 seasons, we finally get to see just how strong they are. Daenerys and her 3 dragons make light work of the fleets at Slaver's Bay. This is a level of power we haven't seen in Game of Thrones yet. It brings something new to the table, further characterizing the dragons and Daenerys by contextualizing their strength. This is real fly swatting. Now I want to raise the question of how to use fly swatting to continue to characterize someone once we already know their strength. Flash forward a season and we have another fight with dragons. This time it's Daenerys versus the Lannister army, the Battle of the Gold Road. We know a dragon can wipe out an entire army because we've seen it happen before. So what's new this time? Well, for starters, they escalate the scale of their destruction, which makes for an awesome spectacle. However, beyond the strength of the dragons, we also see some characterization of Dany. Despite Tyrion advising her not to go through with this, she brings the dragons to battle and ends up paying the cost, as one of her dragons is shot down. I think this battle is one of the moments in the show we can point to as a time she starts to slip into madness.
Yeah, so the new information here would be definitively that they aren't immortal. You still have to use them as a precise tool, not as a freaking butcher.
Finally, in the last time we see her and her dragon, Daenerys decimates King's Landing, laying waste to everyone in her path, soldier or civilian. This once again scales the dragon's capacity for destruction, as well as Daenerys' madness, and makes for a great example of how to progressively use fly swatting as a way to display character, even if the characterization was really dumb. Screw you, Season 8.
But I also seen the fire is actually quite like a Molotov, or... I don't remember how the forever burning fires are called. That just burn and burn and burn for a long, long time without anything. Without any fuel, basically. Or just keeping up the energy in the substance that's in it. But I forgot how it's called. Irrelevant. It doesn't matter for the video.
The hall fight in Old Boy is definitely a classic fight scene. As iconic
Yeah, but this one is so cool. For fuck's sake, it looks so epic. And it's also a fly swat. I mean...
as it is, however, I'm not sure how much I like it. While I was trying to classify it, I was having a hard time deciding where it fell. Remember, the fight spectrum is used retroactively to analyze a fight after it happened. First we ask who wins, then we generalize how strong each party is, and then that tells us where the fight falls on the spectrum.
I would say it's fly swatting. Maybe going into a toss-up because he's still in danger.
So first, we know that Daisu, our protagonist, wins the fight. Next, let's analyze the strength of the two parties. Individually, each member of the party he's fighting is very weak. The party as a whole, however, is about equal in strength to Daisu, which would mean this fight is a toss-up. But they don't really fight as a whole unit. They do something that is a telltale sign of fly swatting fights, specifically bad ones. Before the fight begins, Daisu asks his opponents if anyone has AB blood type because his previous opponent is bleeding out. Some pretty good characterization right there. We see that he's a good guy not really looking to kill any of them. Once the fight begins, he easily takes out each individual person that fights him. Classic fly swatting, the one thug at a time strategy that we see so often in, I'm just gonna say it, bad fights. These fights annoy me because it ruins...
And by the way, just for those who think that this is a realistic fight, no, it's not. 3 people would be enough to actually just go around him, and just fuck him up. But is it a freaking awesome fight? Fuck yeah, it's entertaining as hell.
Wins the illusion, and you feel like you're watching actors, not real characters. About 30 seconds into the fight, however, the group actually works as a team and surrounds him, which is about the way we'd expect this fight to go. I can definitely appreciate this realistic turn of events. Then, with him down on the ground, they stop because they think they killed him. However, the fight is not over. My problem with this fight is not that they didn't finish him off here. It's important to recognize that maybe they have some sympathy for him because he spared their friend at the beginning, or maybe they're just a bunch of underpaid novice thugs who have never really killed anyone. I don't have any problem buying the idea that they wouldn't finish him off right there.
By the way, good point. That they maybe had some soft point for him because he didn't instantly kill their friend, so they know to a certain degree it's they could have just stopped this fight, but they also get paid for it. So
Regardless, with a knife in his back, he jolts back up and proceeds to take them out one by one. I guess my main gripe with this fight is that it's more of a display of incompetent opponents than it is Daisu's abilities. That's not to say he doesn't put on an impressive choreography of moves. If you like this fight, I can totally respect that. Ultimately, this fight's not really that bad, and it makes for a good example of both Daisu's toughness and, strangely enough, his kindness. I'm curious if you can think of any other examples of fly swatting where they do that stupid one thug at a time strategy, and if you think it ruins a fight or if they handle it well. I've got another example of that right here. Before we get to the next fight, I just want to take a moment to pause and thank you all for watching this video. This channel is about 2 months old now, and I've just had so much fun making these videos and seeing all the support.
Yeah, and by the way, you did a fucking good job. Like, you ripped it apart. That's insane.
That you guys have to share. If you want to continue to support, a simple like and subscribe is all I'm asking for. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's head to the planet Titan for one of Marvel's better fight scenes. Thanos versus the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. I
okay.
A lot on
So it's a good one.
And I'm going to do that some more here, but I'll also acknowledge what this fight does right. I feel like this fight plays out in a very similar fashion to the fight from Oldboy. Firstly, it could appear like a toss-up when you look at the two parties holistically. Then, for whatever stupid reason, the Avengers basically start the fight with that one at a time strategy. This is because the writers are lazy, and they want to pan the fight out and give each hero their own special moment. And I think it makes for bad fly swatting. Once the Avengers finally start working together and implementing some strategy, the fight starts working out in their favor. What makes Thanos so strong is that gauntlet, so what they should have done right off the bat is try to remove it from him. It's actually super satisfying to watch them all work together to remove it, using each other's strengths to their advantage. Then, of course, Star-Lord ruins it. I think we all know that was just stupid, and I'm not going to waste my breath complaining about it. At least it characterizes Quill, I guess. Anyway, once Thanos is back awake, the real fly swatting takes place. He handles all 6 of them swiftly, using his gauntlet to his advantage. So here's a real problem I have with this fight. Check out this random purple wave he uses. Why on earth did he not use this power from the get-go? This is another problem with a lot of bad fly swatting fights. I hate when characters wait to use their best abilities. It's just not realistic. Doesn't he want to win? I get that I'm being very critical, but I'm a firm believer that realism greatly enhances storytelling, and conversely, unrealistic moments ruin stories.
I'm gonna be honest here. Yes, I agree with you to a certain degree. The realism, or the thing that actually I like, is if it's consistent with the world. Just because, I mean, we cannot freaking fling spells around. We just can't. But if somebody actually instantly throws a fireball, I agree with you. That would be realistic. But also you have a gigantic freaking hulking monster of a guy that's so arrogant that wouldn't even, well, he thinks he's untouchable, that he plays with his food. For me, to a certain degree, it actually makes sense. And by the way, I'm not defending Thanos because I like him. I didn't see the movie. But it just would make a little bit of sense in this specific universe. Would I prefer if people actually just use their powers instantly? Well, normally, yes. In a real fight, I wouldn't wait around, because before I get hit and maybe, well, carry some permanent wounds out of it, be it mentally or bodily, I would go out as fuck. But if I had Thanos' power and I would go against normal human beings, or at least the equivalent of it, yeah, I probably would say to them, hey, calm down, it's not worth it, I can fuck you up. And if they don't hear, then use everything I have without maybe killing them.
Sure, if Thanos immediately wiped out all 6 of them with some magic gauntlet move, it would not be entertaining. However, I think they could have done a better job recognizing that his natural, realistic reaction would be to finish them off as fast as possible. With this being said, I think the writers could have better emphasized a surprise attack where all the heroes work together to get the gauntlet off from the get-go, rather than wasting time with those 1v1 moments.
Yeah, they could have.
Speaking of 1v1 moments, let's just move on to the final bit of this fight. Finally, with everyone else taken care of, we see Iron Man vs. Thanos. This is probably my favorite part of the entire fight, some true power discrepancy put on full display. At the start, I think Thanos actually tries to use that purple wave of immobility, but Iron Man actually blocks it with his suit shield. Iron Man puts on a beautiful combo of moves that use full advantage of his suit, yet all it draws is a single drop of blood.
Yeah.
Even when he dedicates...
And by the way, if you think about it, or as I see it, this looked quite impressive for the things we just seen for Thanos. To draw actually blood on him is quite strong.
Entire suit's power to this yellow laser beam, it's not enough to halter Thanos. That is power. But at this point we know Thanos is strong. So what does this last fight do that's new? When Thanos delivers the finishing blow, he commends Tony. This shows that he's a nuanced, almost respectable villain that is not doing things out of pure evil. He even spares him when Strange offers the Time Stone, even though Thanos could have easily won if he just took the stone and then finished them off. But he's all about trade-offs, so I guess it would make sense that he would respect the deal. Overall, this fight had a ton of problems, but it also had some pretty good moments, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on it. At the end of the day, it's not really Marvel's priority to be realistic, but I can't help but imagine how good the franchise would be if the writers simply challenged themselves more.
Oh, I agree with you on that. Challenges make most of the things that we do or even watch just better. Yeah.
I want to conclude this video with the fly swatting to end all fly swatting. It had to be One Punch Man. If you haven't watched this show, I still think it's worth staying tuned for this section because I'm going to talk about some core concepts of fly swatting. As far as I'm concerned, the entire point of One Punch Man is to mock anime fans and the power scaling community. It's meant to get the last laugh in those conversations of constantly one-upping each other's favorite character. No matter how strong his opponent is, One Punch Man, aka Saitama, will always win. That's his whole shtick. Of course, this means that the writer runs into the challenge of keeping things interesting because the fights virtually have no stakes. While I'm not the biggest fan of this show, it undoubtedly has a lot of fans. So why do they keep coming back if every fight is decided before it starts? If you've been watching this video, you know that it's the characterization. Saitama is a funny character. One Punch Man is a funny show. It's a satire. Let's break down his fight with Boros, a villain that could probably annihilate all of Earth if it weren't for One Punch Man. Having a character as strong as Boros would almost always mean the fight would be a World Cup, but with the presence of Saitama, it's a fly-swatting fight that's not even close. In a visually pleasing fight, Boros flashes all of his abilities, his strength, and spectacular moves, but all it does is dirty up Saitama a little, who in a very anti-anime fashion shuts up Boros mid-monologue. I particularly like this scene where we see Saitama get flown into the ground just for us to find out he's actually on the moon. What other show do we get a character using consecutive normal punches? It's such a comically mundane name, and yet the move absolutely destroys Boros. Finally, Boros is about to use his last gambit move, which you don't really get to see because Saitama also decides to use his last gambit, which is felt across the world. Boros puts it best. This wasn't even a fight. One Punch Man was holding back the entire time, which reveals that maybe he's just bored with all his strength. I haven't read the manga, and to be truthful, I haven't watched the show in quite some time, but I believe that besides the comedic side, this is the characterization that One Punch Man wants to explore. Similar to Gojo and JJK, they use fly swatting to talk about how it's lonely at the top. So that's fly swatting. I think I've said everything I have to say about it, but I'm sure I missed out.
A lot of good points. Things to think about. But hey, and I want to repeat that, really mate, you're doing so freaking great. It's honestly insane. And yeah, just also leave a comment for him if you actually watch his stuff. Like, sub, and leave a comment for him, because that actually helps in the algorithm gigantically. Let's just say good. job. Good job. Again. Fuck it. Let's just do it. But as it is, acolytes, good night. Oh.